At 81 years old, Patti LaBelle sat alone in a quiet room, staring straight into the camera. And what she said next caught everyone off guard. Her voice wasn't shaking. It wasn't dramatic. It was calm. Almost too calm. She looked right into the lens and said, "I think it's time for me to step back. Not because I can't sing, but because I finally understand something I didn't before." That line alone sent fans into shock. Because for decades, Patti wasn't just a singer. She was power, energy, soul. The kind of voice that didn't fade with time. The kind of presence that owned every stage she walked on. So when someone like her says goodbye, people don't just listen, they start asking questions. Why now? What changed? And what did she mean by understanding something? Because behind that calm voice, there's a story most people never really knew. A story that didn't start with fame. It started with pain. Long before the lights, before the fame, before the name Patti LaBelle meant anything. She was just a little girl growing up in Philadelphia. Her real name was Patricia Louise Holt. And life at home, it wasn't simple. Her family believed in discipline, strict discipline. The kind where children were expected to be quiet, respectful, and strong. There wasn't much room for softness. Not much space to talk about feelings. Patti grew up learning very early that emotions were something you kept inside. Her mother was a strong woman, deeply religious. Church wasn't optional. It was part of life. Every week, every service, every song. That's where young Patti first found something that felt like freedom. Because when she sang, something changed. She didn't feel small anymore. She didn't feel controlled. She didn't feel afraid. People started noticing her voice early. Not just good, different, powerful in a way that didn't match her age. But outside of those church walls, things were heavier. There were moments in her childhood that left marks. Things she didn't fully talk about for years. Emotional wounds that stayed with her quietly, even as she got older. She learned how to smile when things weren't okay. How to perform, even when she was hurting. And that became a pattern. Because for Patti, singing wasn't just a passion. It was survival. When things got overwhelming, she turned to music. When life felt unfair, she sang louder. When she didn't feel heard, she made sure her voice filled every space it could. But nobody really asked what was behind that voice. Nobody saw the little girl who was trying to escape something she couldn't explain. And that's the part of her story most people missed. Because by the time the world met Patti LaBelle, she had already learned how to hide the pain and turn it into something beautiful. By the time Patti reached her teenage years, one thing was clear. Her voice wasn't just a gift, it was her way out. Philadelphia in those days wasn't easy, especially for a young black girl with big dreams and very little guidance on how to reach them. The streets were loud, the expectations were limited, and the idea of becoming a star felt almost impossible. But Patti didn't think about impossible. She thought about singing. She started performing more seriously in her teens, entering talent shows, singing anywhere she could, school events, local gatherings, small stages that barely had proper microphones. And every time she sang, people reacted the same way. They stopped what they were doing and listened. That reaction gave her something she had never fully felt before. Control. Around this time, she joined a small group with friends. Just teenagers trying to make something happen. They didn't have money. They didn't have connections. What they had was ambition and a belief that maybe, just maybe, their voices could take them somewhere bigger. But the music industry wasn't welcoming. Doors didn't just open because you could sing. They stayed closed. Locked. Sometimes slammed shut right in your face. Patti and her group faced rejection over and over again. Record labels didn't see them as marketable. Promoters didn't take them seriously. And when they did get chances to perform, the conditions were rough. Long hours, little pay, and almost no respect. Still, Patti kept going. Because quitting would mean going back to a life she was trying to escape. There were nights when she questioned everything. Nights when she felt invisible. Nights when the pressure of trying to make it felt heavier than anything she had carried before. But something inside her refused to break. Her voice started getting stronger. Not just technically, but emotionally. You could hear something real in it. Something that came from experience, not just talent. People started noticing more, and slowly the group began to evolve. They weren't just a group of girls anymore. They were becoming performers, professionals, fighters. But even as things started moving forward, Patti was still carrying the same emotional weight from her childhood. She didn't talk about it. She didn't slow down. She just sang louder, because that was the only way she knew how to survive. The group eventually became known as Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells. It was a big moment, not just because they had a name, but because people were finally starting to pay attention. They began touring, recording, and building a presence in the music scene. For Patti, it felt like everything she had been working toward was finally happening. But success didn't come easy. Tour life was exhausting. Long drives, late nights, early mornings. Sometimes they performed for crowds that didn't care. Sometimes they faced discrimination that reminded them exactly where they stood in the world. And then there were the internal pressures. Being the lead voice came with expectations. Patti wasn't just singing anymore. She was carrying the group. Every performance had to be perfect. Every note had to hit. Every show had to prove that they deserved to be there. That pressure started to build. Still, they pushed forward. They had hits. They gained recognition. They built a name. But something wasn't clicking. The music industry was changing, and the image of the Bluebells started to feel outdated. The gowns, the style, the presentation, it didn't match where music was going. And that's when everything shifted. The group reinvented themselves as LaBelle. It wasn't just a name change. It was a complete transformation. The elegant dresses were replaced with bold, futuristic outfits. The sound became edgier, more daring. The performances became louder, more expressive, more raw. And Patti? She stepped into a whole new version of herself. This was the moment when the world truly saw her power. Songs like Lady Marmalade exploded. The energy, the confidence, the presence, it was undeniable. But behind that transformation, there was tension. Reinvention isn't easy. Comes with risks. Comes with disagreements. And within the group, not everyone saw things the same way. There were creative differences, emotional strain, moments where things felt like they were falling apart behind the scenes. And for Patti, it became overwhelming. Because while the world saw a group rising to fame, she felt like she was losing pieces of herself trying to hold everything together. She was performing at her highest level, while quietly dealing with exhaustion, pressure, and emotional weight that never really went away. Eventually, the group couldn't hold together anymore. They split. And just like that, Patti was on her own. No group to lean on. No shared responsibility. Just her. And the voice that had carried her this far. Going solo was both exciting and terrifying. For the first time, everything rested completely on Patti. No group. No backup identity. No shared spotlight. Just her name. And she made it work. Her solo career took off. The songs connected. The performances became even more powerful. She wasn't just a singer anymore. She was a star. Her voice filled arenas. Her presence demanded attention. And her name became one of the most respected in music. But success came with a price. Behind the scenes, Patti's life was far from perfect. The schedule was non-stop. Tours, recordings, appearances. There was barely time to breathe. And with that pace came isolation. She was surrounded by people, but often felt alone. Trust became an issue. In the music industry, not everyone around you has good intentions. Patti experienced betrayal from people she thought she could rely on. Business decisions that didn't always go in her favor. Situations where she felt used more than supported. And that hurt. Because deep down, Patti was still that same girl from Philadelphia. Someone who just wanted to feel safe, understood, and valued. But fame doesn't always give you that. Instead, it puts you in a position where you have to stay strong, even when you're tired. And Patti stayed strong. She kept performing, kept delivering, kept showing the world the powerful, confident version of herself that people expected to see. But there were moments, quiet moments, when everything caught up to her. Moments when the applause faded and the room went silent. That's when the loneliness hit the hardest. She didn't always talk about it. She didn't always show it. But it was there. The pressure. The expectations. The emotional weight of carrying a career, a reputation, and a life that never really slowed down. And over time, it started to take its toll. Because even the strongest voices need a moment to breathe. At a certain point, Patti couldn't ignore it anymore. Her body started sending signals. Quiet at first, then louder. Fatigue that didn't go away. Moments where she felt off, even when she was trying to push through like she always had. For most of her life, Patti had learned to keep going no matter what. Pain wasn't something you stopped for. You worked through it. You sang through it. But this time, it was different. When she was diagnosed with diabetes, it forced her to face something she had been avoiding for years. Her own limits. It didn't happen in front of cameras. It wasn't some dramatic public moment. It was quiet, personal, real, and it scared her. Because suddenly, this wasn't about hitting high notes or finishing a show. This was about her life. Doctors told her she needed to change everything. The way she ate, the way she lived, the way she took care of herself. No more pushing past exhaustion. No more ignoring the warning signs. At first, it was hard for her to accept. Patti had spent decades being strong for everyone else. Now she had to slow down for herself. And that didn't come naturally. There were moments when she resisted it. Moments when she thought, I've been doing this my whole life. Why do I have to stop now? But deep down, she knew the truth. If she didn't listen now, her body would make her listen later. So she started making changes. She became more careful, more aware. She learned how to manage her condition, how to balance her health with her career. And publicly, she handled it with strength. But privately, it weighed on her. Because health issues don't just affect your body, they affect your mind. There were nights when she thought about everything she had already given, and everything she might have to give up. Moments when she wondered how much longer she could keep going at the same level. Moments when fear crept in. Not fear of singing, but fear of what could happen if she didn't stop. And yet, even through all of that, Patti kept showing up. She kept performing, kept smiling, kept giving her fans the energy they expected. Because that's who she had always been. But something had changed. For the first time, she started thinking about the future differently. Not just the next show, but the bigger picture. And that thought, it didn't go away. As Patti moved into her later years, something else started happening. Something no one can avoid. At 80, life doesn't feel the same. Not physically, not emotionally. Things slow down. And more than anything, people start disappearing. Friends she had known for decades, gone. Fellow artists she shared stages with, gone. People who understood her world, one by one, no longer there. That kind of loss doesn't hit all at once. It comes in waves. A phone call, a memory, a moment where you realize someone you used to laugh with is no longer here. And for Patti, those moments started adding up. She didn't always talk about it publicly, but it stayed with her. Because every loss was a reminder. A reminder that time isn't unlimited. A reminder that no matter how strong you are, life moves forward. At the same time, her body kept changing. The energy it once had so naturally now required effort. The voice was still there, powerful, emotional, undeniable, but everything around it took more out of her. Travel felt heavier. Long performances felt longer. Recovery took more time. And for someone like Patti, that wasn't easy to accept. She had built her identity on strength, on endurance, on being able to outlast anything. Now, she had to face a different reality. She wasn't that same young woman anymore. And that truth, it stayed in the back of her mind. There were quiet conversations happening, not on stage, not in interviews, but behind closed doors. Conversations with family, conversations with people she trusted, about slowing down, about what comes next, about how long she really wanted to keep doing this. Because for the first time, Patti wasn't just thinking about performing. She was thinking about living, really living, not rushing from one stage to another. not carrying the same weight she had carried for decades. Just being present. And that idea started to grow. Slowly, quietly, but it didn't leave. The decision didn't come in one moment. It wasn't a sudden realization. It wasn't one event that changed everything. It built over time. All the years, all the pressure, all the loss, all the health scares. They started to come together in a way Patti couldn't ignore anymore. She began asking herself questions she had avoided for most of her life. How long do I keep doing this? What am I holding on to? And what am I afraid to let go of? Those questions stayed with her. Because the truth was, she didn't need to prove anything anymore. She had already done it all. The success, the respect, the legacy. There was nothing left to chase. But walking away, that was the hard part. Because music wasn't just her career. It was her identity. It was the thing that saved her when she was a child. The thing that carried her through pain, through struggle, through everything. So stepping away from that felt like stepping away from a part of herself. And that's what made the decision so emotional. There were long talks with family, honest talks. They saw what she was going through. The exhaustion, the pressure she still put on herself, even at this stage in her life. And they told her something she hadn't fully allowed herself to hear. You've done enough. That hit her. Because for so long, Patti had lived in a mindset of, keep going. Now, she had to consider something different. What if stopping isn't giving up? That thought changed everything. Because suddenly, saying goodbye didn't feel like losing something. Felt like choosing something. Choosing peace. Choosing rest. Choosing herself. And once that idea settled in, she knew it was time. Not because she couldn't sing anymore. Not because people stopped loving her. But because she finally gave herself permission to step away. And that's something she had never done before. So when Patti made the decision, it wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, clear, final. And the next step was telling the world. When Patti finally decided to speak, she didn't do it on a big stage. There were no flashing lights, no audience, no band behind her, just a camera and her. At 81, Patti LaBelle sat down to record what would become one of the most talked about moments of her entire career. The room was quiet. You could feel it, even through the screen. She took a breath, looked directly into the camera, and for a few seconds, she didn't say anything. That silence alone made people uneasy. Because Patti was never silent. Then she finally spoke. "Hey, my babies," she said softly, using the same warm tone her fans had known for decades. But something was different. There was no performance in her voice. No stage energy. No attempt to impress anyone. Just honesty. She talked about her life, not like a legend, but like a woman who had lived through a lot. She mentioned the early days, the struggles, the pain, the moments she didn't think she would make it. She talked about how music saved her, how singing gave her a place to put all the emotions she didn't know how to express as a child. Then she paused again. And that's when everything shifted. "I've been strong for a long time," she said. "But being strong all the time, it gets heavy." That line hit people hard. Because Patti LaBelle was the definition of strength. And hearing her admit that it had been heavy, it felt real in a way fans weren't used to. She went on to talk about her health. Not in detail, not in a way that felt dramatic, just enough to let people know that things had changed. "My body's been talking to me, and I finally decided to listen." But the moment that truly shocked everyone came next. She leaned in slightly, her voice softer now. "I'm not saying goodbye because I can't sing," she said. "I'm saying goodbye because I don't want to wait until I can't." That line spread everywhere. Because it wasn't what people expected. Fans thought maybe something had happened. Something sudden, something tragic. But this was a choice. And it forced people to see her differently. Not as someone being forced out, but as someone walking away on her own terms. Then she said something even more personal. "For a long time, I didn't know who I was without the stage. Now, I want to find out." That was the moment people realized this wasn't just about music. It was about her life, her identity, her peace. She thanked her fans, not in a rushed way, not like a typical goodbye speech. She took her time, mentioning how much their support meant to her, how they carried her through moments when she didn't feel strong. And then, toward the end, she smiled. A real smile. Not the kind she gave on stage, but something softer. "I'm still here," she said. "I'm just choosing me now." And with that, the video ended. No music, no dramatic fade out, just silence. But that silence said everything. After the video was released, the reaction was immediate. Fans were shocked. Not because Patti was leaving, but because of how she chose to do it. There was no scandal, no forced retirement, no dramatic health reveal. Just a woman deciding it was time. Social media filled up with clips of her message. People replayed that one line over and over. "I'm not saying goodbye because I can't. I'm saying it because I don't want to wait until I can't." For many, it changed the way they thought about her. Because Patti LaBelle had always been seen as unstoppable. Now she was showing something different. Control, clarity, and honesty. Artists, fans, and even people outside of music started talking about it. Some understood it immediately. Others struggled with it. Because when someone like Patti steps away, it feels like the end of something bigger than just a career. But for Patti, it wasn't an ending. It was a shift. Behind the scenes, her life started to slow down. The constant travel stopped. The late nights faded. The pressure of always having to perform disappeared. And for the first time in decades, she had space. Real space. Time to wake up without a schedule. Time to sit in silence without feeling like she needed to fill it. Time to just be. That adjustment wasn't instant. After a lifetime of movement, stillness can feel strange. There were moments when she missed it. The stage, the energy, the connection with the audience. But she didn't regret her decision. Because she knew why she made it. She had spent her whole life giving. Giving her voice. Giving her energy. Giving her strength. Now, she was finally giving something back to herself. And that mattered. Her legacy? It was already set. Decades of music. Performances that people would never forget. A voice that shaped generations. But more than that, it was the way she chose to leave. On her own terms. Without waiting for things to fall apart. Without holding on too long. That choice, it stayed with people. Because it wasn't just about Patti. It was about knowing when to stop. And having the courage to actually do it. And in her own quiet way, Patti said one last thing to the world. Not in another video. Not on a stage. But through the way she stepped back. She showed that strength isn't just about pushing forward. Sometimes, it's about knowing when to let go. So what do you think about Patti LaBelle's decision to step away? Did anything she said hit you differently? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I really want to hear what you think about this. If this story stayed with you, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. We bring you real, honest stories behind the legends. The ones you don't always hear. Until next time, take care.